I don't know if anybody in here does not have a phone. And yet we still have higher rates of anxiety and social displacement than we've ever had in the history of mankind. We're so extremely connected, and yet we feel so infinitely alone compared to previous generations. So I guess that's the question. What do you want to be? Do you want to be a person who's defined by the things that hold you back? Or do you want to be a person who defines themselves by the things that you have chosen to become and to do? How do you want to raise your kids someday? Do you want to raise them in such a way that you're gonna celebrate our weaknesses? Or do you want to raise them in a way that's going to help them to contend with the difficulties and challenges of life so that they can overcome and become something meaningful? Not something that is played on by the world, but something that actually acts on the world and is a positive influence. Not just an influence, but a positive influence. You really want that for someone you love and care about? Start treating yourself like someone who you love and care about. Because you can't expect somebody else to do it unless you do. And there's nobody who knows you better than you. So you embrace that thing. But you become what you want to become. You embrace the thing that you've chosen to be. Not the thing that necessarily that you've been influenced to become. We've all been influenced to become the things that we are. Of course. But what is it that you want to choose to be? And we say the world is so completely changed because of technology. And I ask, like what? It's like, for some reason, it's always the thing we go to. Well, social media. Okay. How about ventilators and medical technology and antibiotics and all of these things that now help us? Well, we don't live longer, but we can live worse and still live as long as we did before. So how can we not think of those things whenever we ask about technology? Pay attention to what you're paying attention to. Why do our minds immediately go to that? You're absolutely right. There's all kinds of technology. I mean, hell, there's air conditioning. We don't really think about that. It's air conditioning allows us to live in way more places than we otherwise could, which allows us to spread out our population, which allows us to grow, which allows us to harvest more resources. It's massive what just something so simple as air conditioning can do. That's what allows you to have refrigeration, which allows you to keep food, which allows you to not have to go find food every single day and hunt it and keep it fresh. And what does that do? That opens up 3 or 4 hours of your day and gives you more free time. Of course, what do we do with that free time? Pay attention to what you're paying attention to. But yeah, think about that. When we ask about technology and how it changes our lives, how come we don't think about the airplane? Well, that's old technology. 300,000 years of human history, we've been flying for 100 of it. That's pretty new, generally speaking. Because we think about the things that impact our lives. And for some reason, we think that this impacts our life, or maybe it does, more than antibiotics, more than a ventilator, more than a lot of medical technology. I wonder who sold us on the idea that that's the most important piece of technology ever invented. I wonder who benefits from us believing that this is something that's absolutely necessary. Are we benefiting from it? I'm entertained. It's true. And you don't have to deal so much with the tragedies and the sufferings of life. You still have to deal with them, but you can ignore them for a little while, as long as your battery lasts. Excellent point. Very smart. Others? Yeah. You're objectively right about that. Have you ever looked at an article and it's got the headline, it's got like one paragraph, and then there's a button that says, read the rest of the article, and you have to click on the button, and then it reveals your. Why should you have to click a button to reveal the rest of the article? What does that tell you? What it should tell you is that most people don't click the button. You have to actively show interest in reading the whole story, because most people won't do that. Most people will just look at the headline, look at the first paragraph, and you won't usually find a lot of what's actually happening until like paragraph 6, 7, 8, if at all. Because that's not what generates revenue. They're not trying to inform you. They're trying to get your clicks, because if they can get your clicks, they can sell advertising revenue. You're the product. You're the product. So you're not wrong about that at all. And the thing is that, please understand that when I'm saying this, my phone is right here. I'm not saying that any of us is above that. What I'm saying is that we have to be, stop me if you've heard this before, we gotta pay attention to what we're paying attention to. Because if we're perusing for they make good points in the first paragraph, then we're not really taking time to develop our own ideas. If we're not developing our own ideas, we have to be aware, at least, that we're forming our ideas largely based off of first paragraphs or headlines. And you have to know that that's understood by the writers. So when they want you to think something or believe something, they just stick it into the first paragraph. That's what they want you to take away from it. And who benefits from that? Well, whatever side that they want to sway you to. This is why it's important, if you want to actually form ideas, to look at multiple sources. But having said that, I get it. Who here wants to do that when you can be entertained by something else? I mean, we talk about hell, I probably already have offended you, so I guess I'll just lay the rest of it out. I mean, who seek to be entertained constantly? Little kids. Little kids want to run around, play, climb trees. But as we get older, then we have to put away the things of childhood. That's one of the things when we talk about maturing. What are some of the things that we think of as a mature person? Well, they take care of their responsibilities. They I don't even know beyond that, really, right? What does it take to be a mature person? When you think about a mature person, do you think about a person who's absolutely and thoroughly entertained? Wow, you know what? Edgar's got his hat on sideways, but you know what? He's thoroughly entertained. He's got that weird haircut, but you know what? He's entertained. How many of us sit there, look at someone and go, I'm just in love with them? Why? Because they are so entertained. Is there anybody in your life that you like listening to talk just because you like the way they talk? They talk differently from somebody else you've ever heard talk before, and there's something about what they say that just strikes you, that speaks to you. Maybe just the way they talk, something about them maybe even recognizes something in you, or you feel like they do. Or do you look at a person and say, I like that they're entertaining? And by the way, I know the answer to that, because oftentimes I'll ask students, sometimes students will talk about a teacher and say, I hate this teacher. Why? Oh my God, they're so boring. But I love this other teacher. Why? They're so funny. They make us laugh. They do this, they do that. Oh, we're trained to do that. And so I get it, but I'm not chastising that at all. If you can get somebody who's entertaining and thought-provoking, then you probably have found a unicorn. You should probably listen to what that unicorn has to say. But this is why it's such a rare thing. It's a rare commodity to come across. Somebody who can be entertaining and thought-provoking and, speak to you. And I don't know if there's a person, somebody who's talking to you at a basis where you almost feel like they know about you in some way. You're like, wondering if there's cameras somewhere. They must be talking about your life, There are people in my life that I think of like that. There are people in my life who spit gum out onto a floor. Had to have been a 10th grader, right? Yeah. It's hard because the entertainment is so there. If you look at your phone, and you pull up your apps, I wonder what you have more of, entertainment or educational. And if you were to pull up your usage, I wonder where all of your usage is. And again, I'm not saying this to chastise, I'm saying it because I'm acknowledging it is so hard. Because the entertainment is so there, it's so easy, and it's so much more fun. It's true. I guess, is the purpose of your life to be entertained? Or is the purpose of your life to find meaning? I don't know. I don't know what the purpose of your life is. I don't. But I hope you find out. That way you can make it meaningful. And God willing, at the end, joyful even. Others. Yeah.
I think with phones being like necessary, I think it's more like it's convenient to be in touch with what the majority of people are doing. And I think about it with some of my friends. It's like, how do you regulate giving technology to your kid without them turning out to be like a chronically online like iPad kid, or like frying their brain? And how we agreed on it was like, as long as you're not like just giving it to them as their source of always just giving it to them so they can be quiet kind of thing. Or like that's their only form of interaction. Like as long as you're still like, I forgot what we said, but as long as you're still like actually talking to them kind of thing. But then we related it to like later on, like, would you give your kids like games? And he related it to more into like, I want to put them in a sport so that like they learn like the team building aspect, or like, you know, like working with other people, and also just being active. But then giving them like a console, because it's very likely that like those people on the team are gonna be like in touch with technology in like that way, so that they could form that bond over that in like a regulated way. But I feel like that's like looking so far into the future, but I do sort of agree with that. So that's when I think like phones or like technology is kind of necessary in today's world if you kind of want to like fit in or be just conveniently in touch with what mostly everyone's doing. And then I think it's also teaching that kid like to be self-aware of it, especially because like if you make your child that's like a junior in high school and that's never had a phone, and then they go and have a phone, or they go into a job with like technology, they're gonna be behind other kids. So I feel like in that sense, that's when it becomes necessary, because you don't want the future you don't want to make your kids not as aware as the other kids.
So,
I think it's a gamble.
a few things. First off, I was thinking about going in that direction earlier when you were saying that technology was necessary. It's necessary in the sense, in a social aspect, because as you're saying, if you're the only one without the phone, if you're the only one who doesn't know about these things, then it puts you, of course, it makes you the strange kid. But I don't know, man. Why not? I guess look around, I guess maybe, and ask yourself if it's so bad to be the strange kid. Do you want to fit in? If you look around the world, is the world worth fitting into right now? Are the people around us worth fitting into? Would it be better to say, well, everything's so jacked up, but you know what, at least my kid fits in with the jacked upness? I don't know. Seems like you can't swing a dead cat right now without somebody saying, I have social anxiety, and ending their sentences on that upsyllable. And it's almost like if there's nothing wrong with you, then you're the strange one. So is it therefore better for us to find something wrong with us, so I can say, my parents argue and fight, and I have to hear that, and it traumatizes me. Then of course there's gonna be somebody who says, you have two parents? There's gonna be all of, there's like this one-uppedness about how messed up we are. And that's because we don't have gratitude. We don't recognize how great things are. We're really good at finding problems with things, but not solutions. I guess maybe that would be a good use for our technology. Maybe that would be a good measurement of how necessary it is. Does it help us to solve problems, or does it create more problems for us? But you're right. There is something there about causing us to now feel, like we don't fit in. But I don't know, man. I don't know what to say. I don't know if anybody in here does not have a phone. And yet we still have higher rates of anxiety and social displacement than we've ever had in the history of mankind. We're so extremely connected, and yet we feel so infinitely alone compared to previous generations. Maybe it's because we feel like we can talk through this. I don't remember if this person is in here, so I apologize if it's you, but that's why I'm not saying any names. But in fact, I'm sure some of you have done this. I sit at my desk and I get my email, ding, I'll look at it, and somebody who's sitting in the classroom here will send me a question. Why don't you come over and ask me? I'm just, I don't do well with talking to people. Get over it. How long are you going to use the pandemic as an excuse for your life? I'm just not used to just talking to people. Get over it. Why? Because it's harming you. It's harming your life. It's making you worse. And I know you've got teachers. I know you've got teachers and administrators. I know you've got adults lined up to talk to you and say, it's okay how you are. No, it's not okay. You know it's not okay. Because it's stopping you from being what you could be. It's holding you back from the dreams and ambitions and the things. Name something in your life that you want to achieve and tell me how that is helping you achieve it. I can tell you how if you stop doing those things, it's going to help you to achieve the things in life that you want to achieve. What's your biggest goal in life? Is it to do something meaningful? Or is it to talk about how much anxiety and depression and so forth you have? Yes, you have it. I'm sorry. I don't know anybody in here who probably hasn't suffered from these kinds of things. But what's made you better? Has it been people letting you bathe in it and wallow in it? And then pat ourselves on the back because we're so understanding of you. Yes, I have no doubt that you feel these things. And I have absolutely zero doubt that it's stopping you from being what you could become. That it's stopping you from doing what you could do. So I guess that's the question. What do you want to be? Do you want to be a person who's defined by the things that hold you back? Or do you want to be a person who defines themselves by the things that you have chosen to become and to do? How do you want to raise your kids someday? Do you want to raise them in such a way that you're gonna celebrate our weaknesses? Or do you want to raise them in a way that's going to help them to contend with the difficulties and challenges of life so that they can overcome and become something meaningful? Not something that is played on by the world, but something that actually acts on the world and is a positive influence. Not just an influence, but a positive influence. If you cared about someone and loved them, treat yourself like that. And tell me which of those things you would rather have them be and do. And if you really sit there and say, I would love for them to just sit there and be shy and miserable and alienated and alone and isolated their entire lives, then by all means. But we know where that goes. We've seen it. We know what the social trends are. Do you really want that for someone you love and care about? Start treating yourself like someone who you love and care about. Because you can't expect somebody else to do it unless you do. And there's nobody who knows you better than you. So you embrace that thing. But you become what you want to become. You embrace the thing that you've chosen to be. Not the thing that necessarily that you've been influenced to become. We've all been influenced to become the things that we are. Of course. But what is it that you want to choose to be? It's not a sign of mental health to fit in well with a world that's dominated by mental illness. It's really not. But I don't need to tell you that. You know that. Maybe you need someone to say it, you hear it. But it's absolutely true, man. A healthy reaction to an unhealthy world is not to fit in with the unhealthiness. It's to rise above it, it's to transcend it, it's to become better. Or maybe it's to make more TikTok videos. I'll let you figure that out. Afraid to ask, but others?